Greetings, I'm Tammy. I'm your host with Making It Take It Time to Listen. Making It Take It Time to Listen. Our topic for today is what is the point for outreach? And here today to share the reason why outreach is important is my guest, John Schmidt. Hello, John Schmidt, and welcome.
Hey Tammy, how are you? And welcome as well. My name's John Schmidt, and I am the Prevention Services Coordinator for Youth for an agency called the Delaware Council on Gambling Problems. You just asked why outreach was important?
Yes.
So outreach is important to me, at least, because outreach is all about providing awareness for whatever audience that you're speaking in front of, and also providing resources for people who may need tools for life skills or recovery or whatever area they're in. I think having resources for individuals and providing awareness and information, because the more knowledge we have, the better prepared we are in situations. So I think the outreach is all about providing information and providing resources to create awareness and create opportunities for people to make changes in their lives that they'd like to make.
Okay, you mentioned your audience. Who's your audience? What is your demographic, location, age, gender, anything in particular?
Yeah, so I mostly go into schools. So I go into middle schools and high schools all throughout the state, and I talk to kids about the dangers of a few things. Underage gambling is one of the things we focus on. We talk about the fact, if you notice it says protect your brain, that's basically our foundational message for kids. We know that the brain's not fully developed usually until about the mid-20s, and so we know that when we're talking to kids in middle school and high school, we're talking about kids who are anywhere from 11 to 16 to 18 years old. And so we talk to them about the importance of healthy brain development, and that means not getting involved in potentially addictive activities, whether that's the substance addiction like we normally talk about, right, drugs and alcohol, or behavioral addictions, gambling, video gaming, things like that. Obviously things like sex addictions as well. All those things would be behavioral addictions that can create issues. But what I focus a lot on in the classroom, especially in the last couple years, is our relationship with digital technology. So social media, video games that are on our phones, and some of the psychological principles that are embedded in games and in our phones that create and maximize screen time for kids and even for adults. I don't like to just pick on kids when it comes to our phones, because we know adults can spend a lot of time on their phones as well.
Okay, now you mentioned gambling with children. How are they gambling?
So a number of ways. Obviously, underage gambling is illegal in our state. You have to be over 18 to gamble legally on the lottery and 21 to do any kind of casino gambling.
Excuse me, what state is this?
The state of Delaware.
Okay.
In the state of Delaware, and most states in our union, it's 18 to do things like lottery, scratch offs, and 21 to be in a casino. So.
Okay.
So underage gambling, what does that look like? I mean, that could be anything, right? That can be shooting dice, that can be playing cards, that can be actually playing sports. But a lot of gambling actually occurs in the video game environment. Not just say you and me deciding that we're going to be playing, let's say, NBA 2K, and we're going to bet $5 on who wins between you and I. But there's actually a lot of gambling mechanics within video games, and that's what we focus on.
Well, how do you detect that they're in the video games?
So, well, part of it's because we know about a lot of what are called gambling mechanics that are in the games. So a lot of kids that play video games, and even a lot of adults that play, they know some of the gambling mechanics. And two of the things that I'll mention are, one of them is what are called loot boxes. Loot boxes are basically virtual items in games that you can open, and it provides virtual rewards. It can be things like what are called skins. What are skins? Skins are like virtual cosmetics for your avatar, for your character, or even for your weapons, your guns and your knives and things like that. And kids like these things, and sometimes they're monetized, so meaning they cost money if they're playing the online version. The only way they have access to these things in games is if they're playing the online version. The online version opens up the opportunities to not only play more expansive experience, to have more expansive experiences in a game, but it opens up a few things. Cyberbullying can happen when you're playing online because you're involved with chats. That can be a danger, especially with kids who are young. You may have younger adults or older adults who are preying on them through chats by doxing them, which means making their information public, threatening them, trying to meet up with them, and things like that. So there's some danger aspects to that. But in terms of the gambling aspects, the loot boxes are what I like to call a virtual scratch-off. So I tell kids the definition of gambling is when you're risking something of value to win something of greater value without knowing the chances, or without knowing what the outcome is going to be. And so if you think about a scratch off, somebody goes to Rural Farms or Wawa or wherever, and
Don't I
you
know?
spend a couple dollars and you play a scratch off, and you don't know what you're going to win or if you're going to win. And that's sort of the premise of loot boxes is they'll open loot boxes and sometimes they'll cost money. Maybe one will cost $2 or $5, or you can buy a bundle of them for $20. And how do they buy these? A lot of times credit card information is already attached to prior purchases, embedded information. Sometimes kids can get into trouble by using their parents' credit cards to make these purchases what are called microtransactions, meaning buying loot boxes, leveling up, buying battle passes in Fortnite, things like that actually cost money. There's other ways, obviously, you can have the actual currency for those games. For example, in Fortnite, you have what are called V-Bucks. GTA 5, which is actually for adults, rated M for mature, there's actually a casino in the game where you can play poker, slots, blackjack, roulette, and they have stock market options and also horse racing in this game. So you're kind of grooming kids at a young age to sort of
Yes.
understand gambling principles. So,
Now I like to scratch off, and I may attend the casino myself, but I never had those tools growing up. Well, I'm not a PlayStation, none of that. I'm not. All I know how to do is
well, I
play.
grew up on Atari and like
And
Nintendo back
Pac-Man.
in the day. Exactly,
With the tennis
exactly.
game?
Yeah, with Pong, right?
Pong,
yeah,
yes, so-
exactly.
Okay, now, what have been the downsides from doing the outreach? What was like something that didn't work out in the best for the child, or however you were trying to reach them? And
So I go to mostly public schools, and I also do our agency also covers like some charter schools as well, but we also do other arenas. So for example, I'll do Stevenson House, I'll do Ferris, I'll present to adults at other recovery communities and other agencies and things like that. And so the reality is, so there was a study done by the Colonial School District, which is actually William Penn and Gunning Bedford and things like
Yes.
that. There was a study done a while back. It was released by the Colonial School District between the years of 2009 and 2017, which is an 8-year span. There was an increase in depression rates, 60% in an 8-year span by kids between the ages of 14 and 17. So basically, high school age kids, middle school 11 to 13 was 47%.
and that connected to the
It's all
gambling?
it's all correlated with, I think, a number of things that are going on in our society. Let's think about '09. We're starting to talk about the advent of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. The phones are starting to now have
The
internet
social
access and cameras, and now we're in an app crazy world now where you can just have access to anything at any time, and that can create potential dangers, especially for parents who really aren't exercising a lot of oversight on their child's digital behavior.
Okay, so when you go out and you advocate to the trying to get the children to see better than something different than gambling, how are they receiving it? Like, oh, because like my grandchildren, they love the PlayStation and everything. Now, when you're telling them the negative outcome of it, how are they receiving it?
So I don't like to even present really from a negative perspective because our agency is what they call gambling neutral. So we don't support legalized gambling, and we're not opposed to legalized gambling. Same thing with gaming. We're not opposed to gaming or supportive of gaming. My job is to go in and talk about the forces that are at work and let kids and adults that we talk to arrive at the conclusions they need to as a result of the information that we provide. And so as an agency, I mostly work with kids, but we also present to adults, right? And we also offer treatment services for adults. We have prevention work that we do in the adult communities. We just had our conference recently, and it was for vulnerable populations. It was for obviously the youth, which would be considered vulnerable because of underdeveloped brain. So
Yes.
that was one population. The military, who oftentimes come back from active duty a bit vulnerable emotionally. Maybe they're suffering from some PTSD and things like that, and that can make them more susceptible for developing an addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, whatever, something to cope with whatever emotions that they're struggling with from coming back from war-torn areas. And then also we featured the LGBTQ community as well. We're talking about marginalized populations. So that's pretty much the gist of what we do at our agency. We offer treatment services for kids, for adults, and for families. And for anybody who's a youth or who's a minor, we recommend that they contact us with an adult, and we can set up treatment services for them with an adult, and maybe have family sessions. We have counselors throughout our entire state that are trained to help with gambling addiction and also gaming disorder as well.
That's awesome. I'm sitting here just visualizing so much that you do. Now, you said the state of Delaware. Are you Sussex, Newcastle County, Kent?
Well, we're everywhere. So we have an office in Georgetown,
Okay.
and we have one
That's
of
in
our
Sussex,
one of
okay.
our counselors that's been with us for a long time. His name is Hector Garcia. He has clients up and down the state, but his office is in Dover, and of course we have our Wilmington office. So we have an office where we can
Okay.
offer services in all three counties.
Okay. Now, for our listeners out there, or watchers, what's contact information? Website?
Yeah.
Telephone?
So we're actually overhauling our website right now.
Okay.
And that's deproblemgambling.org. You can still go on there. It's deproblemgambling.org. Our phone number, our office number is 302-655-3261, but our helpline number. So if you want to call because you're looking to get some assistance, some counseling, get some information, some literature maybe sent to you, you can call our helpline at 888-850-8888. That's the Delaware Council on Gambling Problems, and that's 888-850-8888.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Smith, I see that outreach really is important. I'm glad you took time
Absolutely.
to share this with us. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, thank you, Tammy, for having me and
You're
for this
welcome.
opportunity to share what I do and what our agency does and share our information. Yeah, this is very personal for me. I had a lot of personal experiences with gambling activity growing up, and so having the privilege, I always use that word, having the privilege of being able to go into schools and talk to kids and give them a message that, man, I wish I would have had when I was that age, right? But to be able to talk to those kids and give them that information and be a source of hope because of what we provide for them is it's a privilege, and it's something I'm grateful for every day.
Okay.
And so my thing is just always remember, guys, protect your brain. Really, really important. We
Protect-
only get one.
protect your
Liver,
brain.
kidney, lungs, things like that. You can actually have them replaced. That brain, I haven't figured out how to replace that brain yet. So we really got to protect that. Make really good decisions in your life.
Well, thanks again for tuning in. And don't forget, make it, take it, time to listen. Make it, take it, time to listen. Stay tuned. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. It's free. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Keep it up.
Hit that button.
Till next time.